Concrete, or the Chateleine of Faynore. A dystopian tidbit.
They say that if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. It's for people who build things. What if all you have is a knife?
The setup couldn't have been easier. I was living in a dilapidated deer stand, a freakishly high one, that I hoisted up even higher with a block and tackle I borrowed from a gang of feral children. I really admired the kids for resourcefully continuing to exist, post-CW and all, and the location was perfect, nestled in thick cover, a perfect sightline to the stronghold. During the day I slept. At night I looked for food and scoped out my victim, a shadowy person, creature whatever, known as the Chateleine of Faynore. Spotting her wasn't easy. Her stronghold was immense, nearly a quarter-mile long. Oh, sorry, you might not know how long that is. I'm an old-timer. I think still in imperial units. The problem was I gave myself a year. I gave myself time to watch her. And that was my mistake. Mind you, I'd only ever seen her from a distance, through my scope. She seemed too tall and straight to be as old as she was supposed to be. The first thing I became obsessed with was the keys.
I always woke up just before sunrise. That was the best moment. But the problem that morning was, the sunrise was coming from the wrong direction. It was coming from the west. I thought I was dreaming. For a long time I thought that.
The Chateleine. She moved through Faynore like a shadow. She was the only one in the whole stronghold I ever saw. Others were there, of course. They must have been. I saw movement. Not in the daytime. Just tiny lights at night.
Finally I realized. Someone must have been there. Someone who needed taking care of.
The other problem was I was having trouble sleeping. I was always being woken up by a bird. It wasn't ever by singing. It was the flapping of the wings. By my head, always way too close to my head. I'd go to grab it. I'd just graze the claws on its feet. Have you ever noticed how big bird claws are? Way out of proportion? It seemed like, I don't know, it seemed like it wanted something. Probably wanted to eat my eyeballs or something.
The problem was, I could never leave my labyrinth. It protects me. Its endless corridors are like limestone channels in the earth. Its walls responding, ever-changing, like a face marked by an unnameable experience.
Why are there still AM radio stations? Who's listening? Who's listening? Who's broadcasting? Is that guy? If anything would make you believe in zombies, it would be AM radio stations.
The stronghold Faynore was covered with these danged lookouts. Balconies, they called them. She'd come out there at night. You never knew which lookout. Never anybody else came out, just her. And all these crows or ravens would come down and line up on the balcony railing next to her, keep her company, like they were people. They didn't make caw. They didn't make bird noise. It wasn't natural.
Watch out. Jesus Christ. Watch out.
I woke up in this truck, in the bed. I was under a black tarp. And it was a long time before I realized that. There was something else in there. A whole bunch of junk. But also something moving.
Anyway, so this guy came out of the pile of fabric, like the lumpy pile of stuff. His head just popped up all of a sudden. And no, it wasn't a zombie. It was a person. It was like a real live person, very dirty looking. You know, he had a smear of goo on his cheek. His hair was greasy. God, it was incredibly greasy. And he looked just like Edgar Allan Poe. I was like, my God, you're Edgar Allan Poe. Or are you Edgar Allan Poe's zombie? And he just looked.
For a minute I thought I was seeing things. because of all the ravens in the Chateleine stronghold, but it mentioned Edgar Allan Poe. Why would Nevermore become a cultural touchstone, I said. He said, because it rhymed. Why, that particular word, I said. It could have been anything, it says. I mean, how much sense does that make? But they can't think like we can, right?
So we tried coming up with a few other rhymes to see if we could make a cultural touchstone in the back of this truck. Because, you know, we really needed a cultural touchstone. We really needed something. I mean, we really needed something. Something to focus on. It was so cold. It was just so cold. And we were so hungry. We didn't really want to kill anything. Well, I didn't. I don't think he did either. He wouldn't have been so thin.